and let's go to Mobile, Alabama, and let's chat with our guy Josh Queipo from Pewter Report. Brother, I know you're busy. Thank you so much for taking some time and chatting with me. How are you?
Jay, I'm doing great, man. I appreciate you having me on. Very excited to be here from Mobile in a surprisingly warm day that's got me regretting some of my outfit choices for the trip.
Hey, if you're gonna change your outfit, just make sure you do it after you hop off with us here on the stream, my brother, because
Gotcha.
I don't want to get nailed by the FCC. Uh, all right, so the one name that keeps jumping out, what is this? Mike Green?
Mike Green,
Mike
edge
Green, this guy,
Marshall.
edge rush. Everybody, like, I open up my timeline before, and all I keep seeing is Mike Green. Mike Green. He's going crazy. This guy, like a bull in a china shop. This guy.
Yeah, so I mean, it really started with his production at Marshall, and he's got such a deep bag of tricks. Just about any way that you can think of a pass rusher winning from a stylistic or technical standpoint, it's all over his tape. Now, some of the questions coming into Mobile this week were one, his size and just his overall measurements. He checked some of those boxes when he weighed in at 251 pounds. He still has shorter arms, which can be an issue for edge rushers. It has not been an issue for him this week. Yesterday, he flashed some fantastic bend in terms of how he gets around the corner, his the flex that he has in his ankles and his hips. And then today, he just went through guys' faces. Like he has checked the box on power as well. So he's done everything he can to solidify himself as a potential first round pick. I think the only thing NFL teams may still have an issue with is, do they think that the arm length issue will become a bigger issue when he gets to the NFL?
Yeah, and I know. And if you guys want to see 8 players that were buzzing by the end of practice, Josh Capel did a great job putting this out last night about 8:50, the Senior Bowl Day One defensive standouts. I'm with you, man, as far as the measurements go. But Josh, I'm one of those guys that I don't give a crap if you can tie your shoes standing straight up. That doesn't mean anything to me. It doesn't, because at the end of the day, that's just almost a kind of a qualification. Give me the intangibles. Give me a guy like Mike Green that is just bull rushing guys. Do you think at times people take too much out of these analytics and they knock guys when at the end of the day, if he's a good football player, he's a good football player?
Yeah, I think that there's a balance between the two. I think you have to recognize, well, what does arm length mean, and how does it prevent that person from winning, and then how do they overcome it? I think a great example on the Bucs roster right now on the other side of the ball was Luke Gedeke. He was profiled as an interior offensive lineman after playing offensive tackle his entire collegiate career because he had shorter arms. Like that was the issue most people thought he had. And I remember asking Luke about it in training camp last year, like as he transitioned to tackle. And I was like, hey, what do you think about your arm length and how it could hamper you? And he goes, it's the only arms I have. Like, and I figured out how to use them, right? And it has not been an issue for Gedeke. Can it be an issue for some people? Yes. But with Green, I think he overcomes that because he has such violent hands and they're so active. He keeps offensive linemen's hands off of him and he stays outside of their reach. And that allows him to overcome that physical shortcoming through his technical prowess. And then again, such a deep bag of tricks. He can win the corner. He's got a great near chop. He's got a fantastic rip move to get the corner with that he pairs with his bend. And then he's got that wicked inside spin. So when you add that and the way he wins, I think is such a compliment to what the Bucs already have in Yaya Diaby. They have that power pocket crasher. What they really have been lacking since Shaq Barrett was in his prime was somebody who can win on the high side. And that's what Mike Green provides. He's one of a couple of guys who have been here in Mobile who have that ability, which is something that I think the Bucs really need to seek as a complement to Diaby, Vita Vea, and Kalijah Kancey, who are all winning and compressing the pocket on the inside.
Josh, give me the position groups that you think the Buccaneers are keeping an eye on, probably, at the top of their list there in Mobile.
Linebackers got to be number one. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I think that you're potentially going to see a huge change at the linebacker position just in general. Right now, the only linebacker from the 53-man roster that was supposed to be there at the beginning of last year that's under contract is Servassier Dennis. KJ Brick is a free agent. I don't think they pursue him. Levante David is a free agent. Obviously, if he wants to continue to play, I think the Bucs re-up with him. It remains to be seen whether they extend a contract to J.J. Russell, who's an exclusive rights free agent. But I think the Bucs know that they lacked athleticism at that position group last year, and they need to get more athletic so that they can cover the seams, they can cover the middle of the field. They have somebody who can run the pole and cover too. And so there are some guys who have flashed at the linebacker position here in Mobile who I think they potentially have their eye on.
Who is it? Some of those guys? I know you wrote about him yesterday.
Yeah, my favorite is Jeffrey Bassa out of Oregon. And with Bassa, the number one thing he has is that athleticism. He's a converted safety. So 226 pounds, he runs so well, so fluid in his hips. And what I think the Bucs will really like, and especially head coach Todd Bowles, is he's very, very smart. I got a chance to speak with him after his practice, and there was a particular rep in 11-on-11s where he had an extremely impressive play where he picked up a crossing route that was developing behind him. So he literally felt it out, what was happening, how the offense was trying to attack them, the defense. And he follows the crosser all the way across the field. And then as it bends up vertically up the sideline, he sticks with it. There's no window for the ball to get into, and he ends up breaking up the pass. So I asked him about it after practice. He recalled the rep immediately, and he was so detailed and nuanced in this. We were in cover 3. They had a tight split. I figured there was going to be play action. I was feeling for this. I thought that they would try and manipulate the defense this way. That's why I was able to pick up the crosser. And then it just became me out athleting, the guy and sticking with him on his hip pocket. And this wasn't a tight end running a crosser. This wasn't a running back running. This was a wide receiver running a crosser on him. And he stuck on his hip pocket. So that combination of his awareness, his ability to recognize what was going on, to detail, I think all of that is something that Todd Bowles looks for. It had me. The Bucs run that great series in the current, and if you remember when they were going through the draft process last year and they showed their interview with Tyke Smith, it had me reminded of those interviews with Tyke Smith. I thought Bassa was very clearly a skill set that the Bucs need in that linebacker room, and he certainly impressed me. Somebody else from yesterday was Jack Kaiser out of Notre Dame. I don't know if the Bucs will necessarily be in on him, but he had a good day. Things that were developing in front of him, he was staying on the one-on-one drills with running backs. He looked really good. And then earlier today, just got done with the national practice, Cody Lindenberg out of Minnesota had a few really great reps in running back, linebacker one-on-ones, which are not designed to be friendly to linebackers. So those were 3 of the linebackers who have kind of caught my eye over these last 2 days.
Man, that's really good, thorough stuff. Where could you see Bassa going in what round?
It's so hard for me to say right now. I'm so early on my board. I would say a day 2 guy, probably 3rd round, maybe late 2nd round at this point. A lot will come down to his testing in Indianapolis, which I expect him to do really well at. And then how do NFL teams see him at 226 pounds? Are they going to ask him to bulk up? I asked him about that. He said he's fine with bulking up. He definitely has the frame to do so. But I would see him as a day 2 pick right now.
What about all right, let's say Bassa is a day 2 pick. So he's not 1st round pick. So then if you had your druthers, what are the Buccaneers going to do with that 1st round pick then? Because is there a linebacker at that position that they would be able to take? Because it doesn't seem like that. It seems like there's a lot of edge guys, and it seems like that's the position they're going to focus on there.
Edge or corner would, okay, I think, be a place that they could go into. So we talked a little bit about Mike Green. I think another one who's really improving his draft stock as potential 1st round pick would be Donovan Ezeraku out of Boston College. Very similar to Green in terms of a deep bag of tricks, a little bit on the lighter side, but he wins that high side. He's an arc bend guy. The question with him coming into Senior Bowl, can he set a heavy edge? Is he a 3-down player? Is he more of a designated pass rusher? He's set a really good edge in run defense. He's shown some pop. Something I didn't really see on his tape coming into Senior Bowl was the heavy hands. And then he won clean on day 1 with an absolutely amazing club move where he just knocked the offensive tackle about a foot to his left and said, I don't even have to rip through this. I can get right to the quarterback. So it was nice to see that heavy hand and see a little bit more power to his game. So I think that he's somebody with the Bucs pick at 19, it might be a little bit of a reach, but it would be them reaching for a skill set that they haven't had in a while, betting on ceiling. And the last time they did that was Kalijah Kancey, and it worked out pretty well for them. So he would be one. And then a couple of corners who have really stood out I think one who could be a day one guy is Trey Amos out of Ole Miss. Um, he's got the size, length, speed. He had a really great day one. I was really impressed with him. And then this morning, I got a chance to key in a little bit more on the national team corners. And there were two that kind of popped for me. Quincy Riley out of Louisville. He's somebody I'm not going to say his game is a lot like Quinyon Mitchell, who was a first-round pick for the Eagles last year and had a fantastic rookie season. But in terms of like, didn't have a lot of notoriety coming into the Senior Bowl and has shown out, and now people are taking a heavier look at his game and really getting impressed. I think he's somebody, not the prototypical outside corner that the Bucs go for, because he's only 5'10" and I think 3/8. But if you're looking for the size speed combo that the Bucs typically look for, look no further than Darian Porter out of Iowa State. 6'2", 197 pounds, almost an 80-inch wingspan. And he's been showing out here today with some really impressive reps. So yeah, I think those are some corners who have really showed out, who could be on the Bucs radar.
It's so funny because I had my buddy Luke Easterling on last week, and we were talking about Quincy Riley out of Louisville too. And, you know, doing my research on him, looking at Luke's mock draft, and I think he had him in the 3rd round, I started watching some tape and looking at him and going, that's not really a Todd Bowles type corner. Because one thing, and people ask me, like, why does Jamel Dean play? Why did Carlton Davis and Zion McCollum? I go, one thing that you don't see with Bucs corners that you see with other teams, those guys make tackles in space. Those guys will keep things in front of them, and they'll just be like, all right, they're not going to get out-muscled. Right. And when that Buccaneers defense the last couple of years, and I'm looking at when it was Dean and Davis together, you couldn't run the football on them. Everything to the outside, it was like, oh, you can't even go outside because those guys are going to bring you down. But unfortunately, the Buccaneers and Todd Bowles haven't been able to find that combination of a guy that's 6'1", but also has that ball-hawking skills. And that's what I saw from Quincy. It was like, he's not the prototypical size, maybe, and maybe not the greatest open field tackler, but he's probably got better ball skills than the guys that they brought in the past too. Do you think that's going to be kind of the balance? Like, it's hard because there's got to be an adjustment. Not nearly enough takeaways last year, but they need a, you know, Trevon Diggs, right? Maybe got it. Maybe leaves a little bit to be desired when it comes to the one-on-one, you know, defensive back play, but a guy that can, listen, you can turn the tide of a game with some of these interceptions. And Josh, they just haven't had many guys like that, especially at the corner spot.
Yeah, I think what the Bucs are probably going to target, not necessarily somebody who has a lot of interceptions, but at least ball disruptors. Mm-hmm. So you look at, can they break up passes? Can they actually get their hands on the ball? I'm sure hands is going to be a part of the skill set that they're looking for. Can they, you know, peanut punch? Can they create forced fumbles? So turnovers in just every sense of the word, and just getting their hands to the ball. One thing that I think the Bucs really like about Zion McCollum's game for this past year, and it wasn't perfect, but he was 3rd in the NFL in pass breakups. Mm-hmm. And those over time tend to turn into interceptions at a certain point. And I'll go back to Zion real quick. There were only 6 cornerbacks in the entire NFL who had more interceptions than he did last year. He only had 2. Mm-hmm. Interceptions are not a common staple for an individual. What you're hoping for is you get enough of these ball disruptors who get 1 to 2 picks. You do that over 6-7 positions, and now all of a sudden you're starting to lead the NFL in interceptions. So I think they've got a guy in Zion. I think Antoine Winfield Jr. healthy, he showed what he could do a couple years ago in terms of as a ball disruptor. But I think you are going to find that the Bucs are going to target somebody who can be a disruptor. Whether that's interceptions, pass breakups, forced fumbles, some combination thereof, it is going to be high on their list of traits that they're looking for to complement Winfield, to complement McCollum.
Give me a position group that maybe is flying under the radar, because I think initially you look at, all right, need a pass rusher, need a linebacker, need a corner. The tackle, I think, is another one. Like, you can never have enough guys on the defensive line. But is there any other position group, maybe somebody on the somewhere on the offense, where the Buccaneers could take a mid-round pick? Because I don't think they're going to lose a top-round pick. But what other position group could they possibly be looking at?
Well, I mean, if you look at all of the starting positions on the offense, there's only 2 where they have pending free agents, and that's wide receiver Chris Godwin, and then left guard Ben Bredeson. I think the Bucs probably would like to see both of them back, but even if they do bring them back, Bredeson won't be on a long-term deal, and Godwin and Mike Evans, one of them's approaching 30, the other is over 30. So you have to start thinking about, there is going to be a time in the future where those 2 are not with the Bucs anymore.
Maybe 12 years from now.
Possibly, yes. I think we would all love to see both of those guys have a Levante David-esque
Right.
kind of aging curve there, or Tom Brady even. So I do think that Jason Light said in the past he wishes there were like 15 rounds to the draft so he could just keep drafting offensive linemen. So there's always that potential that if they fall in love with an offensive lineman, they could grab one in the middle there. But I think wide receiver would be also a position because it is a deep wide receiver group. It tends to be every year, and it's a position where it's easy to kind of take a stab in the mid rounds and potentially find a guy. Jalen McMillan was a great example of that, somebody they took in the mid rounds last year. And towards the end of the year, he really started to pop, and he could be the future of that wide receiver room. You could pair somebody with McMillan because beyond McMillan, the Bucs have not gotten a lot out of Trey Palmer, out of Rakim Jarrett. I know they're pretty high on Cameron Johnson, but at his size, can he hold up, in an NFL environment? So I think that is another position group that they could target. And then sneakily, because it is a deep tight end class, the Bucs got a lot out of their tight end room, but Queipo is going to be a free agent after this year. I do expect them to extend Cade Otton. Payne Durham had some flashes. Devin Culp had some flashes, but nobody's really cemented themselves as somebody that you're like, yes, the future is built on this guy outside of Otton. So a late round flyer on an athletic tight end would not surprise me either.
Josh, what is your take of the top 5 spots in the NFL draft as far as Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, where they could end up? And then also some things that we've been seeing is the excitement around a guy like Jackson Dart, Ole Miss quarterback, and we've seen some incredibly gifted things out of him, and now seeing some things today that some people actually like him as QB2 after Cam Ward instead of Shedeur Sanders. What do you make of all that?
I think QB2 is a bit much. Jackson Dart he's so polarizing. I've seen lists where he's not in a guy's top 10. I've seen some lists where he's a top 5 quarterback. I think it's going to come down to fit for him, and a lot of draft analysis comes down to not what did a guy do, but what do you think he can do, right, even if he hasn't been asked to do that in the past. So it's going to be separating him from Lane Kiffin's system and saying, from a trait standpoint, what do we think we can develop? I don't think Dart's going to go on day 1 of the draft. Maybe a day 2 guy. As far as Sanders, I think the Raiders connection could be one for him. And then with Cam Ward, I see the Giants potentially like finding a way to pull him in. So those would probably be the best landing spots. I think for those particular guys, especially with the Giants, I think they have to do something to land the quarterback that they absolutely want. Because for Dayball and Shane, they have to hit on that. Like, that has to be priority number 1 for them. So that's kind of how I see those shaking out in terms of the top 5.
Josh Queipo, Pewter Report, crushing it over there at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. Josh_Queipo over there on Twitter/X, and go just put the little tab on the top of your screen, pewterreport.com. Just keep refreshing, and you'll be able to hear what everybody's got going from our guys over at Pewter Report. Josh, you're the man. Appreciate you joining on the show. Let's do it again soon, buddy.
Sounds great, Jay. Thank you so much.
You got it.